Alrighty, hi everybody. So I've been wanting to do this for a while. I just wasn't sure what the best format was as far as setting this up. Um, I was debating like a Zoom thing, and I decided that it was probably just easier to make a video and just send it to everybody and then have everybody watch. It should only be a few minutes. I'm not going to touch on a lot. The biggest thing I wanted to touch on was just parent and student expectations as far as the studio, what I expect with lessons and what I think is the best format to help everyone succeed and enjoy the experience of learning to play the cello and what that means. And the biggest thing that comes to mind, honestly, is well, there are two things. So one is practice expectations, like how much you're going to practice, how often you should practice, all that kind of stuff, and then parents and what your roles are in all of that. Um, so as you know, I took a week or two off in June to go to a Suzuki seminar, a camp where they talk about what's best for students, like how to teach, why we do the things that we do, and all that, like kind of the method behind the madness, right? And a big thing they touched on first was practicing, right? Like what is practicing? Why do we do it? Um, and the biggest takeaway is just trying to make sure practice is consistent, right? Obviously, if you can do 2 or 3 hours every day, right, and you want to do that, that's great, and you're going to succeed and you're going to go places. I don't require that, but the more consistent, the better, right? Regardless of time, it's better to practice for 20 minutes every day rather than practicing for 2 hours one day a week, right? That's it's just how that works out. Um, so for our purposes, right, I will require that students practice at least the amount of their lesson time 6 days a week or 5 days a week. Um, so Monday through Friday, ideally, or if you want to take lesson days off and practice on Saturdays, that's fine too. However you want to manage that, but I would recommend at least 5 or 6 days a week. I'll let you decide if it's going to be 5 or 6. That's fine either way. But 5 or 6 days a week of at least their lesson time. So if they have 45-minute lessons, it should be at least 45 minutes. If they have half an hour lessons, it should be at least half an hour, right? Um, and just from there going forward. And if you want to do more or you don't have enough time to get through everything that I've given you for every day, then do more. If you have 45-minute lessons, maybe you're practicing an hour, right? It doesn't have to stay at lesson times, but that's a minimum. Like at least I want you guys working on it every day that much, right? Because lessons should be a time for you to like learn something new and me to show you a new technique or show you how to better practice. It shouldn't be a time for me to just practice with you and basically do the stuff that you were supposed to have done during the week, if that makes sense. um, so that's practicing. As far as parents roles, in the Suzuki method, the idea um, is that it's learning music is going to be the same as learning like your first language, right? It's something that requires a lot of support and a lot of encouragement always, and just being surrounded by it. So a lot of it is listening, but a huge part of it is actually support from the parents and from the family and stuff. Um, and they found that like the one of the best ways to do that is to have parents come to lessons and take notes. What this does is the first thing it does is it holds the child accountable or the student accountable for what's happening in the lessons because the parent is there witnessing, okay, this is what he asked you to do, this is what you're supposed to be doing during the week. So like during the week they know, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this in my practicing. My mom or my dad knows that this is what I'm supposed to be doing in my practicing, so they're going to be able to call me out if I'm not doing it. Okay, so that's one thing. But the other thing is in the lessons, if they're not prepared, they have that separate accountability for when they go home, right? I'm not going to lecture your child on practicing every lesson, right? Maybe I'll mention it every now and then, but I'm not going to be like, "Hey, why the heck aren't you practicing?" Or like I'm not that kind of person. So, um but sometimes like I remember when I was learning, sometimes I'd have a bad practice week. And so on the way home, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, that was a bad lesson. Like you got to do better." And just those little things along the way, there's just that extra accountability during the week just made all the difference in the long run, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is it helps educate the parent on why we're doing what we're doing, right? It helps them see how their child is progressing. It helps them see how I interact with the child and if there needs to be any adjustment or why something might be the way that it is, right? Um, and it creates a good relationship with me and the parents, right? So that there's a clear line of communication, right? It clears up a lot of stuff. Um, and it just allows me to focus on the student as I teach, right? I try to take notes, but I like to be more focused on the student and I take some notes after. But just having a parent here to take notes during the lessons makes a big difference for the student, and it also makes lessons run smoother for me because I don't have to worry about trying to write down their notes during the lesson to try and make sure they know what they're supposed to do during the week. That's just something that's happening as we go. Um, so yeah, those are the biggest reasons why having parents in the lessons is helpful, right? It just basically the big two, right? Helping taking notes, know what they're doing, and helping the child be accountable and feel supported in this process of learning how to play the cello, right? It's another language, right? Music is a whole language. It's an international language, but it's another language. And if you think back to any time when you maybe tried to learn a language or did learn a language, it's a really frustrating and rewarding experience, right? But if you don't push through the frustration, you don't feel the reward of accomplishing that thing, right? So I hope this is all really clear. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you feel like a meeting about this in person would be helpful, or if you want to talk about it in the next lesson, I welcome it. It's a big part of why I teach and how I teach. Um, and yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always available via text. I don't always have time to answer phone calls. I will if I'm available, but just with work and school and all that, I'm not always available to answer a call. But if you text me, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.